love always wins, no matter what. Even when they're gone, there's still that love there to be grateful for that you had.
During a recent interview, Valerie Bertinelli revealed a number of deeply personal stories, particularly those concerning her complicated yet long-lasting relationship with Eddie Van Halen. Even after they divorced, they continued to be close to one another, even living together for a period of time, and demonstrating a bond that was founded on love and respect. Valerie divulged the fact that Eddie's second wife, Janie, had abandoned him approximately a few years prior to his passing. In spite of the fact that Janie was present during Eddie's final moments, what exactly transpired between the two of them? What you are about to experience will leave you unable to find the words to express it. Valerie Bertinelli, a well-liked actress and television personality, has never been shy about discussing her personal journey, and she recently reclaimed the place of center stage in the entertainment industry. When Valerie made an appearance on the radio show hosted by Tana Elliott on QFM 96, she talked about her most recent memoir, which is titled Enough Already: Learning to Love the Way I Am Today. Within the context of this personal and introspective discussion, she provided the audience with a more in-depth look into her life, including her relationship with Eddie Van Halen, who passed away, as well as the lessons she has learned about love, loss, and accepting oneself. During the course of this interview, Valerie centered her attention on the long-lasting relationship she has maintained with Eddie Van Halen, the legendary guitarist. In spite of the fact that their romantic relationship had ended more than 20 years ago, the connection that they shared remained strong. According to Valerie, it was a relationship that, despite the fact that they were no longer together, never lost the foundation of friendship and respect that guided it. According to what she revealed to Tana Elliott, the dissolution of their marriage did not mark the end of their connection with one another. To the contrary, instead, it was the beginning of a different kind of relationship between the two of them. A relationship that went beyond the conventional notions of what a former spouse ought to be. Unlike most divorces, theirs was unique. In order to maintain peace in the situation, particularly for their son Wolfgang, Valerie explained that they decided to go with a mediator rather than the traditional approach of going to court and fighting with solicitors. They continued to care for each other even after they had separated, as evidenced by the fact that they continued to live together until Valerie found a new place to live. Eddie personally checked to make sure that the new place was close enough for their son's safety and convenience. Despite the fact that this decision was not conventional, it was a manifestation of the profound affection that continued to exist between them, even after the conclusion of their romantic relationship. According to Valerie, Eddie had struggled with feelings of anger during the early stages of their separation. This is a natural reaction to the end of a long-standing partnership, and Valerie acknowledged that Eddie had experienced these feelings. In spite of this, their love and respect for one another remained constant over the course of much time. As a matter of fact, these emotions made it possible for them to rekindle their relationship on a more profound and significant level, thereby fostering a closeness that persisted until Eddie's untimely death in October of 2020. Valerie reflected on her relationship with Eddie during the interview, and she summarized it by saying that there are times when the people we believe we have let go of suddenly come back into our hearts in ways that we least expect. Their relationship developed over time, but it never truly declined. It was founded on love, respect, and understanding, in spite of the changes that life brought about. After being questioned about Eddie Levi's second wife, Janie Levi, and whether or not Valerie's reflections could potentially cause discomfort, Valerie admitted that she was uncertain. Despite the fact that she mentioned that Janie had moved out a few years prior to Eddie's passing, she acknowledged that Janie was present during his final moments, demonstrating that their connection continued to be significant. It was clear that Valerie had a deep comprehension of the complexities of interpersonal relationships based on her reflections on this subject. Her explanation during the interview was that love does not always follow a straightforward and sequential path. There are times when it persists in ways that we do not fully anticipate or comprehend, and it also undergoes change and evolution. She respected the fact that Eddie's relationship with Janie had its own significance, despite the fact that it was not always easy to define. The bond that she shared with Eddie was one of a kind. The timeline of Eddie and Valerie's relationship provides insight into the enduring connection that they share. Their divorce was finalized in 2007, following their separation in the year 2002. In the year 2009, Eddie tied the knot with Janie Levi, and in the year 2011, Valerie wed Tom Vitale after falling in love with him. Nevertheless, Valerie disclosed that she had filed for divorce in November of 2021, despite the fact that she had moved forward with Tom. She did this by openly discussing the challenges that faced their marriage. What makes Valerie's book so powerful is the honesty with which she writes it. Rather than avoiding the difficulties she has encountered, she welcomes them as opportunities for personal development. The final moments of Eddie's life, when Valerie and their son Wolfgang were by his side, are recalled in her book, and they are among the most moving parts of the book. A final love you was exchanged between them as Eddie took his last breath. This is a memory that Valerie will always cherish because it exemplifies the profound connection that they shared, even in death. This is something that Valerie writes about in her book. Love can linger in the spaces we least expect, even after we have said our goodbyes. During the course of her interview, she expressed a powerful sentiment that serves as a reminder of the multifaceted and everlasting nature of love. Since Valerie is navigating the intersections of love, loss, and memory throughout her story, this is a theme that resounds throughout the entirety of her narrative. There is a possibility that Eddie Van Halen passed away at the age of 65, leaving behind a legendary career as one of the greatest guitarists in the history of the world. However, those who knew him best were the ones who were left with something even more profound, an indelible mark on their hearts that will never be erased. The journey that Valerie took to accept herself is the central theme of her most recent book. Her hope is that as she continues to move forward, she will be able to motivate other people to accept the messy and beautiful contradictions that are inherent in life and love. Every time a story comes to an end, Valerie sees it as nothing more than a fresh start, an opportunity to learn, to develop, and to love in distinctive ways. Her life serves as a powerful illustration of the resiliency of the human spirit, and the message she conveys is one of compassion, healing, and love for oneself. Although life does not always take the course that we anticipate, this does not mean that we cannot find happiness in the journey that we are on. Towards the end of the interview, Valerie stated that her words are a reflection of the wisdom that she has gained through her experiences, which include both the happier and the more painful ones. In spite of the fact that she is about to embark on a new phase of her life, she is resolute in her determination to welcome every unexpected turn and twist, fully aware that each step brings her one step closer to becoming the person she was always destined to be. Regarding Valerie Bertinelli, the process of loving oneself is an ongoing journey. The story of her life is not simply one of enduring heartbreak and loss. Rather, it is one of thriving in spite of these things. In addition, as she continues to share her experiences with the world, she serves as a reminder to each and every one of us that we too possess the ability to accept our own lives, which are messy, beautiful, and ultimately sufficient. Both love and loss, as well as their final farewell. A deeply personal reflection that Valerie Bertinelli, who is known for her candid nature, recently shared on Instagram about her ex-husband, Eddie Van Halen, was a deeply personal moment for her. In her post, she mentioned that she had recently watched a television show that featured their son, Wolfgang Van Halen, in which he talked about Eddie's life and his legendary music career. While Valerie was attempting to watch the show, she found that she had to stop it multiple times because she was overcome by memories that were both beautiful and painful. It prompted her to recall previous years of contemplation regarding her relationship with Eddie and the intricate nature of their connection, which, despite the fact that it ended in divorce, continued to hold a significant place in her life. The relationship between Valerie and Eddie lasted for more than 20 years, during which time they experienced love, difficulties, and ultimately broken hearts. They tied the knot in 1981, a union that was frequently scrutinized by the public due to Eddie's enormous fame as the legendary guitarist for Van Halen. As she reflected on the past, Valerie admitted something that she had not fully understood for many years. Despite her early conviction that Eddie was her soulmate, she was not in fact her soulmate. The difficulties they encountered, in particular Eddie's struggles with substance abuse and infidelity, caused their relationship to become strained, which ultimately resulted in their separation in the year 2001 and their divorce in the year 2007. In a remark that perfectly encapsulates the emotional toll that their relationship has taken on them, Valerie made the observation that it is never easy to admit that there are cracks in the foundation. Nevertheless, in spite of the challenges, their affection for one another never completely vanished. When Eddie passed away in the year 2020 as a result of complications related to throat cancer, Valerie experienced a profound sense of loss, as if a portion of her own life had come to an end. In spite of the fact that they had been divorced 20 years earlier, she admitted that she had, in some respects, prepared herself to play the part of a devastated widow. The range of feelings that surrounded his passing was quite complicated. Despite the fact that she was no longer his wife, they maintained an unbreakable connection through their union with their son, Wolfgang. After giving some thought to her sorrow, Valerie came to the realization that Eddie's death had a significant influence on her, despite the fact that their romantic relationship had been over for a considerable amount of time. The anguish she felt as she watched her son, Wolfgang, contemplate the legacy that his father left behind in the show. Behind the music caused her to reevaluate her roles as a mother and as a woman who had previously been married. She pondered the decisions that she had made over the course of her life and how those decisions had influenced the development of her family. The process of confronting these memories was not an easy one for Valerie, but it was essential regardless. The fact of the matter is that Valerie revealed that Wolfgang's experience of being featured on the show was a process that was both therapeutic and challenging. Wolfgang reached out to various social media platforms in order to convey his appreciation for the chance to contemplate the life and legacy of his father. However, he also admitted that it was challenging to relive certain moments in the conversation. The fact that he was so forthright about his feelings struck a chord with Valerie, and it served to emphasize how Eddie's presence continued to have an impact on their lives even after we had lost him. In the course of an interview, Valerie highlighted the fact that grief does not adhere to a specific time frame, highlighting the fact that even years after the couple had divorced, Eddie's passing impacted her in ways that she had not anticipated. The romantic relationship between Valerie and Eddie came to an end a long time ago. However, their history together has never truly faded away. Wolfgang, whom Valerie referred to as the most positive outcome that resulted from their time spent together, was the one who brought them together. This was a sentiment that was expressed in a number of her musings and musings. Even though they were going through a lot of pain and difficulties, the love that they had for their son remained the foundation of their relationship. Between their past and their present, Wolfgang served as the connecting link, a constant reminder of the love that previously existed between them. In addition, Valerie disclosed the events that transpired in the days leading up to Eddie's passing. She related how she and Wolfgang remained by his side throughout his hospitalization, bringing him small comforts to his room. In those final moments, they attempted to keep a sense of normalcy by ordering pizza and burritos, two of Eddie's favorite foods, and making an effort to find joy in what were otherwise extremely difficult days. In her description of how they spent those final days together, Valerie emphasized the importance of savoring the simple pleasures of being present with one another and making the most of Eddie's favorite foods. However, what happens when love persists in ways that we are unable to precisely define? Throughout the course of her recounting of the profound connection that they shared right up until the very end, Valerie found herself struggling with this question. During the interviews that took place after Eddie's passing, Valerie frequently discussed the special connection that they shared. In spite of the fact that their romantic relationship had come to an end, the emotional closeness that existed between them never came to an end entirely. They shared a love that was not constrained by the conditions of their marriage or by the fact that they would eventually part ways. Valerie thought back to Eddie's willingness to be honest about his emotions, which was something that she deeply valued. Whenever he wanted to express his love, he never hesitated. That vulnerability left an indelible mark on her during those final moments, and it will follow her forever. During the time that Valerie was thinking about her life with Eddie, she reflected on the fact that the simplicity with which he expressed his feelings, even in the face of death, the strength of their connection was demonstrated by the final expressions of love that they shared with one another and the moments of comfort that they shared together. It wasn't just a matter of saying goodbye to Eddie during those final days that Valerie spent alone with him. The purpose of these statements was to reaffirm the love that had always been present, even after the marriage itself had come to an end. When Valerie said this, she was alluding to the emotional depth of their final moments together by saying that sometimes the goodbyes that are the most difficult are the ones that take you by surprise. The fight that Wolfgang Van Halen is making to honor the legacy of his father. The connection that Wolfgang Van Halen has to his famous surname has been both a blessing and a curse for him on multiple occasions, particularly as he navigated his own career in the music industry. That Wolfgang Van Halen was born into the shadow of a rock icon, a legacy that carried a great deal of pressure, was a consequence of the fact that his father was the legendary Eddie Van Halen. His relationship with his father was one of closeness from the time he was a young child. However, Eddie's untimely passing in the year 2020 was a tragic loss that affected Wolfgang to the very core of his being. In an open and honest reflection, Wolfgang has frequently discussed the many ways in which his life and career have been intricately intertwined with those of his father, as well as the ways in which his journey through music has been marked by both love and heartache. The moment that Wolfgang joined Van Halen as the band's bassist, when he was only 15 years old, was a momentous occasion in the lives of both Wolfgang and his father. The previous occupant of the role was Michael Anthony, and the introduction of Wolfgang into the band elicited a range of responses from the band's supporters. There were many people who questioned whether he was too young to hold the position or whether he had earned it on his own merits. According to what he shared in his Behind the Music special, this scrutiny was a significant burden for him, particularly considering that he joined the band not for the purpose of gaining fame, but rather to be closer to his father during a period in which Eddie's health was rapidly deteriorating. His struggles with addiction were well documented during the early 2000s, and his health took a significant turn for the worse after he divorced Valerie Bertinelli in 2005. Eddie Van Halen's problems with addiction were well documented. Wolfgang was under the impression that his participation in the band was more than just a matter of musical preference. He believed that by simply being present, he would be able to assist in maintaining his father's way of life. He took on the enormous responsibility of trying to keep his father grounded during these difficult times when he was a teenager. It appeared that his influence was effective, and in 2007, Eddie made the decision to enter rehabilitation, which was a moment of hope for the family. But even with the best of intentions, it is impossible to heal the pain that comes from being judged by the public. This was a lesson that Wolfgang learned all too well indeed. Wolfgang was subjected to severe criticism from a number of Van Halen fans, despite the fact that he had a positive influence on his father's life. There were many people who believed that he was not deserving of his position in the band, and some of them even suggested that he was miming his performances. His musical contributions and his abilities were constantly called into question, which caused a great deal of pain. The relationship between Wolfgang and his bandmate David Lee Roth was strained, particularly after Roth declined to record a song that Wolfgang had contributed to writing. This added to the tension that was already present. Even within the band, it was made abundantly clear that he was having a difficult time gaining acceptance and recognition. Additionally, tragedy and perseverance were defining characteristics of Wolfgang's personal life. His father was diagnosed with tongue cancer when he was only 8 years old, a diagnosis that would set the stage for a lengthy battle with illness. His father suffered from tongue cancer. Eddie initially put up a fight against the illness. However, the cancer eventually spread throughout his body. Eddie was given a diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer in 2017, and the doctors grimly predicted that he only had a few weeks left to live. Eddie, on the other hand, was able to extend his life by 3 years by receiving treatments in Germany. This allowed him to spend more time with his family, particularly Walter, which was extremely valuable to him. However, what occurs when time itself appears to be slipping away, leaving behind dreams that have not been fulfilled? It was hoped that the Van Halen family would get back together for one last tour, which would have provided the band with the opportunity to perform together once more, with Wolfgang opening the shows. Despite the fact that this concept was met with enthusiasm, it was ultimately never implemented. Eddie's health problems, in conjunction with the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, prevented him from continuing his treatments in Germany, which resulted in the tour plans falling apart. In this period of time, Wolfgang made the decision to postpone the release of the album that he had created with his own band, Mammoth WVH, so that he could spend more time with his father during the years that he was in his final years. In October of 2020, Eddie passed away, and the impact that his passing had on Wolfgang was significant. He was the one who made the announcement to the public about the passing of his father, a moment that made millions of fans all over the world feel their hearts breaking. Shortly after that, Wolfgang released the single Distance, which was a deeply personal song that featured home videos of his father. During Eddie's lifetime, the song, which had been composed prior to his passing, was intended to be performed and distributed to various audiences. Due to the fact that Wolfgang is constantly reminded of his father's absence whenever he plays the song, performance of the song now carries a significant amount of weight for him. Eddie has been going through a difficult emotional journey as he attempts to find a balance between honoring Eddie's legacy and living with his grief. As the world continues to move on, the pain of loss does not go away. Therefore, how does one continue without it? As a result of Eddie's passing, Wolfgang found himself in the position of navigating a world of grief while simultaneously coping with the pressures that arrived with the name of his family. Hospitals in particular became a significant trigger for him because they brought back memories of the agonizing final days of his father's life. Furthermore, Wolfgang was compelled to confront the false stories that were spread about his family in the media. These stories were a misrepresentation of the profound love and connection that all of his family members shared with Eddie. Because of his father's substance abuse, a dishonest former partner, and the constant pressure of living up to the Van Halen legacy, Wolfgang has been open about his struggles with depression and anxiety. These issues were made worse by the fact that his father was a victim of substance abuse. Trolls on the internet made Wolfgang's grief even more difficult to manage. Due to the fact that he was the son of a rock legend, he suddenly found himself the target of cruel comments from individuals who questioned his talent and his position in the world of music. Due to the fact that Wolfgang felt the weight of his famous last name in every aspect of his life, the unrelenting negativity that he was subjected to had a negative impact on his mental health. Wolfgang, however, has made the decision to rise above the noise, despite the harshness of the online world. Even in the most difficult of circumstances, giving up can be the most difficult, but also the most liberating choice. Wolfgang has stated in interviews that one of the most significant things he has done for his mental health is to remove himself from the constant negativity that he encounters on the internet. Even though Wolfgang has frequently confronted the hatred head-on, particularly through his music, he has come to the realization that in order to safeguard his mental well-being, he must maintain a certain distance from the toxic environment. Wolfgang Van Halen has begun to find a way forward, away from the shadow of his father's fame, by concentrating on his music, his family, and his own well-being. However, he will always carry the love and legacy of Eddie Van Halen with him. The story of Wolfgang is one of unconditional love and tenacity. As he continues to navigate the complexities of being Eddie Van Halen's son and a musician in his own right, he remains committed to honoring his father's memory while also forging his own path. He is a musician in his own right. On the other hand, as Wolfgang himself has discovered, even the most illustrious legacies are accompanied by shadows, and the struggle to navigate through these shadows is a battle that only you can fight. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.